Hello everyone, how are you feeling today? It's arounf here, and today I'm coming at you with my zombie world deck profile. Now this has been a while, and it's also been a while since I was on the channel, 2 weeks in fact, if I remember correctly, but as you know, and as I told you in the last video, my sister got married. I also was a little bit of busy in other things, and now I'm back with this profile for you guys. Now there is going to be proxies in the extra deck. Unfortunately, for some weird reason, the card still didn't arrive in the mail. That's something that I actually should check out. I don't know why they didn't arrive yet. I am going to check that out, why they didn't arrive, but sometimes, like, for my country, it's taking a little bit more longer because I order from America, even though, like, for my country, there's no stores and stuff like that that sell these for singles and stuff like that, so that's a little bit of a problem, but yeah, it's weird. I don't know. We need to check that out, but for the time being, let's enjoy this deck profile, and I hope you guys would, enjoy this, and let's try to get to 20 likes, shall we? So starting things off with the monsters count, we're going to start with the 2 copies of your big boss monster. This guy right here is awesome. He's giving you the ability to negate a zombie effect and banish a monster from the field or graveyard, which is really powerful. So he's 2 effects in 1. But of course you're asking yourself, how the heck is he supposed to help you if he punish only zombies? Well, Zombie World, which is the field spell, giving you the ability to turn all monsters on the field to zombies. Another thing is that when you have a field spell, he can pretty much, or anybody has a field spell, he can pretty much special summon himself from the graveyard to your side of the field. So that's really cool. So you need 2 of that. Then 2 copy of Necro World Banshee. This one is your field spell searcher. You don't play Terraforming, you're playing this. And the reason why, because you're playing this, and two of this and 3 of the field spell, it's way too much clogged if you play more than that. And this one is not only your field spell searcher, she also your field spell protector. So this is really good. If you have her on the field, Zombie World in the field spell cannot be destroyed by card effects. And also, neither player can target it with card effects, which is really powerful. So sometimes I actually only leave her on the field. She's 18 beat sticks, so that's also pretty decent, and cannot be getting over so easily if you have to keep her on board. Next up, 2 Glow Up Bloom. This one is really awesome. You pretty much send it to the grave, and then he banish itself. And then if you have Zombie World, he add. If you don't have Zombie World, sorry, you add a level 5 or higher zombie to your hand. So essentially, it search this guy. And if you do have Zombie World, he pretty much special summon it directly from the deck. But of course, for the rest of the turn, you cannot summon anything but zombies. So what you mostly do is essentially special summon this. But there is another tech card that I run here because sometimes I see this card in my hand and then I have to discard it or whatever, and I just don't want to see another copy. So I do have another option, which is Vampire Fioreline. This one right here is freaking awesome. It's protection in battle in a way. Is you pay life point. She's essentially like can stop like attacks because you kind of like exceed the defense. You make your defense higher than the attack. Also, when she attacks, she can steal cards. So you could use her effect to pay life points to destroy a monster and then steal it, which is really powerful and can win 2 games. So that's also very important in that regard. And then we do run additional 2 vampires with her because I do run the Vampire Domination trap card, which is the only trap card that I run, and I'm going to get that off the way right off the bat. Vampire Retainer, Vampire Familiar, Vampire Domination, the normal lineup. If I see Familiar, I essentially like search Retainer, then search this. And then of course if I'm seeing both of these in my hand, it's not that bad because I do have this card right here. So it's essentially an extender for the engine, so that's really important. Then, of course, for the card that probably make every zombie deck profile ever, 3 Solitaire is just getting to your Uni Zombie, which I run only 2 off. I've seen people run 3, but there is a particular other card which I think is better, because like I said, sometimes this guy can get clogged up here in your hand, so I want a particular way to get him out of my hand, and he's pretty much doing the same job in a way of Unizombie, and that is free to Gozuki. Gozuki does the same job. You can send any zombie you want, and then like pretty much like send it to the graveyard for whatever, and then get this out of your hand immediately. So that's really, really powerful in that. And then the last one from the monsters I mostly use, I only play one Mizuki. Mizuki is not really that important in this list, but I felt like sometimes I need the Monster Reborn, so I decided to run this card at 1. I might bump it up to 2, but for my experience, like only 1 is important. This is not a combo variant like Shiranuis that I'm trying to do, or like, you know, you need those like Shiranuis or Vendreads that can discard it all the time. This is not one of those decks, so you cannot run this at 3. If you run Vendreads, you want 3. This is not one of those lists. So yeah. Then for the hand traps, I run 2 copies of Ghost Bill and Haunted Mansion, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, and then 2 copies of Effect Veiler. The reason for this lineup is pretty simple. I don't want to see way too much hand traps in my hand. Effect Veiler is really good as a 2-off. This is also really not that bad as a 2-off. And this is actually really important, more than you think, because your deck is essentially really graveyard heavy. And because of that, your opponent can call by the grave you, and then your turn is going to be over. They're going to just banish this, and your game plan is going to be dead. So this is a card that you want to have in your main deck, because not only it's a zombie, but she also guaranteed to you, in a way, to protect your cards from Cold by the Grave, which is very, very powerful, and that's why I decided to run her at 2. And just running more than hand traps in this deck more than 2 is actually very, very cloggy. But anyway, that's pretty much does it for the monsters. Now I'll move on to the spells. Spells, obvious one, 3 Zombie World. I don't think I need to explain, except from the fact that like your opponent cannot tribute over it. Any monsters except zombie monsters, and then all monsters on the field and graveyard become zombies, so that's why this guy is so awesome. But I would say this though, Nibiru still work. Your opponent and Kaiju still work. They cannot sphere mode you, but Nibiru still works. So keep that in mind as well. They actually learned that Nibiru still work. Moving on to the most OP card in the game right now. I only have 2, sadly, but I should have ordered 3 when I had the chance. 2 copies of Super Poly. If you have the spots for it, I do have a card in the main decks that I actually would say right now, which is Monster Reborn right here. I would cut this down for the 3rd Super Poly, but I don't have a 3rd Super Poly. But if you do, just run 3 Super Polys instead. Like, free Super Polys are a lot better than Super Poly Monster Reborn, because Monster Reborn is kind of like not really necessary. It's a nice card, but it's really not that necessary. 2 copies of Instant Fusion. You do have targets in your extra deck. Don't really need to explain that. It's really helpful against hand traps as well. 3 copies of Allure Darkness, which is supposed to be Pot of Extravagance, but just I don't have the money for that. As understandable, but your deck is essentially contains like really decent number of darks. Like, you do have darks in your main deck, at least 10 of them, if not 11 or so. So this card not really dead, but I would recommend this to be a Pot of Extravagance, because Extravagance, you don't really use your extra deck that much, and sometimes this +1 can win you the game, so keep that in mind as well. Then 3 Called by the Grave. The card that essentially ruined this deck, but you also need it to protect yourself. 1 Foolish Burial, and then 1 1-for-1 for your last of your spells. And then I'm going to repeat that back, because might be somebody that actually missed this in the Vampire stuff. I do run the 1 copy of Vampire Domination. And that's pretty much does it for that. That does it for the main deck. Now we'll move on to the extra deck. Extra deck is really simple. 2 Starving Venom. Yeah, I feel like Starving Venom is really nice. This is supposed to be the Never Dragon or whatever his name is. I just don't have the Never Dragon. And then I still like to run the one Dragus Stapelia, because Dragus Stapelia is actually really, really good if you're able to get against Thunder Dragon, Still Their Colossus, and get a card that can also do a negate on board. So that's it for your fusions. Like I said, the Rafflesia is supposed to be the zombie dragon guy, which I don't really have. Then for your instant fusion targets, Fuzz and Ice Restrict and Sea Monster Theseus. This could be the Millennium Ice Restrict. I would recommend that, but I just don't have it and don't have the money to take on that as well. Link Monsters, Linkaribo. Sometimes you need that, so that's really cool. Cerberus, Phoenix, really good cards. 2 Adventured Saviors, my Starboy guy, because I still don't have that, like I told you, it didn't really arrive in the mail yet. 2 Vampire Sucker, and then finally 1 copy of Borreload Dragon. And that's pretty much does it for that. So that's also the entire deck profile. Pretty short, pretty sweet, nothing too much to explain about it. It's very, very, very straightforward. It's a control deck, which is played with zombie, which always is kind of fun. So yeah, that's it for that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you have any comments to improve the list, let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, how I can improve lists in the future, and then and I'll see you guys next video. And remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, guys, and stay safe, and bye-bye.